Okay, so this is going to be should I make this a replacement video for my last one? I guess not, because I don't want to remake all of the points, right? So there are a couple things that I missed in my last video, and I'm sure that I had more than a few people kind of pointing out my flaws, mistakes, and things that I kind of left out, right? So first of all, I did talk about how the AACT and SAT are more or less IQ tests, and they are. If you look at, first of all, SAT and IQ are highly correlated. But if you look at the concepts behind um, fluid and crystallized reasoning, the SAT has a lot of crystallized reasoning, like how to do math problems. That's like quantitative knowledge, which includes both fluid and crystallized reasoning. And then it has vocabulary, which is almost every single comprehensive IQ test has vocabulary and associates with verbal comprehension. So in a lot of ways, the ACT and the SAT are basically IQ tests. Now you can practice for them and get better, absolutely, but you need a certain amount of IQ to perform at the top levels. We're talking 95th, 98th, and 99th percentile, right? So I was really talking about maybe the top 10 or 20% of students. People that have maybe IQs of 115 or 120, and they take school seriously. Um, Also, and I recognize I can feel like a virus coming on. Like, yeah, I could feel a virus coming on. But I refuse to mention that the level of effort it takes to actually earn a 98th or 99th percentile on the SAT, right? We're focusing on the right spectrum of the bell curve. Or, yeah, we're focusing on the right end of the bell curve, right? So you have your top 10 to 20% of students who practice their fucking, and this is most of the right end of the bell curve, right? It's not the extreme, but it's like, high average to superior IQ scores. These individuals don't have such a high IQ that they can, and we're saying no disability, because autism, ADHD, all those can affect learning styles and proficiency on tests. But let's just say raw IQ, no disability. So these 115 to 120ers, they probably could end up getting 99th percentile on the SAT if they tried very hard, right? If they studied from until 2 a.m., if they took AP courses prior to taking the SAT or ACT and things like English and math, if they yeah, if they studied all the college board like practice tests and got a tutor, then yeah, these 115, 120 are like pretty smart people can probably get a 99th percentile. But there are some individuals, and I know one, for example, although he's not doing terrific in calculus, he got identified in gifted in math. And it sounds to me like he didn't really try on the ACT, and he got 90, I think it was the PSAT. He got 98th percentile, and I think you need to be in that top 2% to be considered for a national merit scholarship. I think that's what it's called. Like national merit scholarship or award, which I'm sure has its benefits, right? And it sounds like he didn't really study for it. So what about those people that they don't really have to study, and they usually get 98th, 99th, or even higher on the percentiles, and these are usually your gifted individuals identified in school. If they're not twice exceptional, right? If they don't have learning strengths and weaknesses and differential thinking that might lead to problems and disability affects them. We're talking purely gifted individuals like this one. right? We're talking about 1 to 2% of that IQ population, but that is identified as intellectually gifted. Because although he wasn't identified as intellectually gifted, you can tell, right? I mean, the guy's doesn't really, doesn't even really try and gets top 1 to 2% on the ACT, which is loaded with vocab, loaded with quantitative reasoning, and quantitative reasoning is very associated with IQ. Um, so high crystallized intelligence, high quantitative reasoning, which is a mix of fluid and crystallized intelligence. Um, So, I mean, yeah, I mean, more or less, he's in that top 2.5. God damn it. He's in that top 2.5% of the population that would be considered gifted, or IQ's around 130. You could argue that gifted individuals start at about 124, which is the superior range, but it's often 130 is the threshold, or above. Um, so yeah, for those individuals, I would say go ahead and do it. Yeah, you don't have no reason to dumb down for the ACT or SAT if it's not really hard for you at all, right? But the majority of individuals, even the very bright ones, the superior ones, are going to have to study very hard for the ACT or SAT to get the kinds of percentiles I'm talking about. Right. And another thing I would say is is my video still applies to that top 1 to 2% because you can still overwork yourself by taking 6 AP courses, by taking, I think I'm starting to get it. I hope I'm not getting sick. By taking 6 AP courses, I mean, there are courses that are really, really difficult that you can take and the homework adds up. I wouldn't say though that for these individuals that it's hard to do all this coursework, like all these AP classes, because again, you're so capable. But if you're taking 6 of them, the workload, regardless of your intellect, is going to be high. Right? And so what I say is don't take the 6 AP courses. Your SAT scores and ACT scores, you can get 99th percentile easily. They'll get you scholarships, right? And those are always a good thing. And that's something I missed in my video, right? So that's the first problem was I didn't consider learning differences on the right end of the bell curve. Now, if you're average, if you're about I would say above 100, right? So a little bit above average, because anybody below 100 needs to, it probably doesn't apply to them, right? So we're talking maybe 100, 105, 110, the average individual, right? If you study the SAT or ACT, then maybe you can get top quarter, top third of your classmates, right, by studying pretty hard because you'll need to study harder than the top 10 or 20% that can get 80th or 85th percentile relatively, They still have to study for that. God damn it. No, I'm fucking, you guys are done. No, no, I'm not having it. Come here. And then where's the other fucker? Come here. Okay. So anyways, what I was back to saying, I'm gonna get fucking caught. Yeah, I knew I was gonna get caught. Back to what I was saying. If you're in the top 10 to 20%, you can probably get a relatively good 80th or 90th percentile with a fair bit of studying, and you will still have somewhat of a childhood full of things that you were able to look back on. Right, so I was mainly talking about that group of people. But if you're in the 100, 105, 110, top half to top fourth of people in IQ, then what you should probably do is try to get maybe 70th, 75th percentile. And you need to recognize your limitations. You're likely not going to be able to do Calculus 3. You can. I'm not saying that you can't, because there probably is going to be somebody in this video that does. They're going to be like, huh, I'm going to do Calc 3. And then they actually do Calc 3. And then, yeah, they actually do Calc 3, right? I've seen a couple physicists and high level individuals that are high have prestigious jobs and they have average IQs. I've seen it before, but let's be realistic, right? If you're in that top half to top fourth of people, what you should do is you should try to look for a relatively wanted job that's not too difficult, that makes maybe $70,000 a year. It's not going to make 100 or 120 because, simply put, there are more individuals that are able to do it. And there are more individuals that will do it. It's not as rare as a skill or trade. So the jobs will be kind of lower in terms of money. But you can still make a good 60, 70, sometimes 80 or $90,000 mid-career if you're able to do these relatively hard degrees that don't require like Calc 3 and CS2. So you should aim for that. All right, so that was the first thing, was the IQ bell curve and the learning spectrum where I missed. All right, the second thing was I underestimated lawyers' salaries, right? So I said that the average lawyer in the United States, and I forgot to add some other things, the average lawyer in the United States makes $90,000 a year, which is not true. And that figure more seems to be about $110,000 or $120,000. Now, there is something to consider, which is I'm the type of person to say, do a job that makes money, do not do what you want. But when I say that, I mean try to find some sort of STEM job that isn't completely, lawyer isn't really STEM, but try to find some sort of STEM job that you relatively like, because there's quite a lot, there are quite a few that make relatively good money, and do it, even if it's not your first choice, right? So, lawyers are miserable. They're miserable people. And they have a high workload. They make $110,000 or $120,000, but they have to spend 7 years, 4 in college and then 3 at a law school. It's exhausting. Its field is still oversaturated, whereas there are developing fields in AI that make relatively around the same money. I mean, I've seen on Indeed, because I've been on the job market, data science, like entry data science jobs, and yeah, they require a few like internships and years of experience, and we went over that. We went over how frustrating. We went over how frustrating, like with all the applicants and the fucking these computer industries because of H-1Bs, and I think we went over that. But anyways, there are still data fields that are relatively untouched, and I feel like this H-1B visa might get sorted out. Wow, there's another one over here. Let me. So, anyways, yeah, that's what I would say for that. Let's see. Are we gonna see somebody come down the highway? Oh no, they're on the street. Wonderful. Yeah, that's just lovely, isn't it? Okay, so anyways, I guess what I'm saying, I can't say anything there because the job market is kind of oversaturated with applicants in data science too. But just consider that, lawyers are an oversaturated and highly competitive field, and there's no telling what you're going to be able to do with it. Um, so that's why I wouldn't consider being a lawyer. It's miserable, it's highly competitive, it takes a long time, law school's expensive. I wouldn't do it. Pre-med, right? Pre-med probably does make more money than I thought it would. but it's also exhausting, and it takes, I think, like a total of 10 or 12 years in order to do. And in my opinion, it's just not worth it. You don't want to be in your 30s and you're only just starting to make money, or some serious money in your career, in my opinion. You just do a 4-year degree, STEM degree, and make $100,000 a year. Make $120,000, $130,000 a year. That's it. You don't need 12 years of school for $150,000 or $160,000 or $200,000 a year, right? Just do your 4 years and get it over with, and you'll be fine. You can. I mean, if you think you can make $350,000 a year by being a surgeon, then you definitely can go to med school for 12 years. But remember that it's a risk, and it's not guaranteed that you're going to finish. And the more time that you spend in school, or for one of these careers, the more likely you are not to finish. And med is hard. Med school requires a high intelligence. High intelligence. So, yeah. Um, Now, what was my last disclaimer? Oh, yes, scholarships. So, probably heard some of you watching the video, and you were like, but what about scholarships? And what I'll say is what I said in the video, although I didn't count scholarships. Which is, um, which is, are they outside the building? Hold on, let me. Okay, I thought maybe they were outside the building. Maybe I should go down there. No, I don't see them. Anyways, scholarships, right? So if you get 99th percentile ACT, if you do 6 AP courses a year, then maybe you'll get scholarships, and you'll get the money you need to, or the money you need to get a very reduced student loans. And this is for something that I forgot to mention, is that college is expensive. If you're going to go to college, then you want to get some scholarships. So what I say to that is, I would say your childhood is still important. Right, I would say that you're eligible to get a fair number of scholarships if you just try to get the 85th or 90th percentile on the ACT or SAT. If you can go further than that without really studying, that's great. But like I said, money you can make up, and time you cannot. And student loans usually have low interest rates, meaning that you can wait a while before paying them off. So would I say that it's worth it to get scholarships, or to study your ass off to get scholarships? I would say to a point, yes. Now that I consider scholarships, that it is. But don't literally spend every single moment of your childhood, which is so limited, so finite, that you don't have anything to look forward to at all except to go home and study AP Chem. Don't do that. Don't do it. Um, nice. So yeah, that's what I would say there. Now if you're somebody that's poor, right, and you need the money, you absolutely need the money to go to college, then I would say do it. Right? If you're poor, you're desperate, you really won't be able to pay it off without scholarships, and you know you won't be able to pay it off without like your family's going to contribute nothing. Um, you don't have any saved up money. Um, well, here's the thing, right? If you're poor and you go into a STEM degree, and you get $120,000 or $110,000 a year by completing the 4-year degree and getting a career, then you will probably be able to pay off your student loans anyways. But if you really need the money, like you have no savings, your parents are paying for none of it, then yeah, I would say you could probably work a bit harder to try to get some scholarships to try to lower the money bar, right? If you really need to get scholarships for whatever reason, then do it. But just remember that time is more important than money, right? Balance your work and your childhood life. That doesn't mean do your absolute fucking best on the SAT where you're studying for 16 hours straight, right? Do good, but don't study so hard to get the top scores. Because there are a lot of people in life, and they are well in their financial career, like financial status, right? These are upper middle class STEM people. And they say in their midlife crises, I wish that I actually had a childhood, that I actually didn't do the things that I did to try to get the test scores that I did, right? I have huge regret not living my childhood. So really, I mean, um, really, like, consider that. All right, I'm gonna go now. See ya.